Here we are. Good morning, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Nice to see you, Alison.
Fantastic. So we've got a little bit of theme music going on just to get us in the vibe. Don't worry, everybody. Won't be going on all the time. So, Joe, just tell us a little bit about what we've got going on today.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about men and their mental health, covering some statistics, because I think it's always important to put a little bit of data in there, but hoping to generate some conversation around, the differences with men and their mental health to women, but also, what's needed, what can help, what doesn't help, what does help, what people have found useful and helpful, and finishing off with some signposting where men can actually, if they're ready to receive help, go and find help.
Fantastic. Tell us about you, Joe. What's your why do you think you're good enough to talk about mental health and men's mental health today?
Okay, so I was a mental health for many years, really wide variety of experience, and obviously in inpatient settings, Alison, it's predominantly men.
Right, okay.
That get admitted
when
into
you say inpatient, you mean like in hospitals and things?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. When men have been admitted into hospital, in wards, it's predominantly men that have been diagnosed with a mental illness.
Right.
That have been detained under the Mental Health Act in some cases as well.
Right.
But also they may come with a criminal background as well as a mental health problem. So a lot of my time was spent in drug and alcohol services, but also within forensic mental health as well.
Right. Okay. So that's pretty heavy. Before we carry on with the content, just want to let everybody know, thank you so much. So we're live streaming today on YouTube, LinkedIn and Facebook. So thanks to people, I can see people are following us already. But we love to have some comments. So, I can see we've got our first comment from the lovely Emily. Way. So Emily says, good morning, Alison and Joe. Thanks so much, Emily. So please do keep coming with those comments and questions, because this we're on for about half an hour today, if that, or maybe longer. We're never really sure, are we, Joey Lard?
No, we can talk forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so we would love to have some comments and questions. Maybe let us know where you are, where you're calling in from today. But yeah, so I suppose the first thing that we want to do, we've done lots of different lives and webinars and things, but we wanted to talk about men particularly. And I guess, why was it that we thought, or you thought, I mean, also, there's kind of a lot of things going on for me, is like, why men in mental health? But also, when I advertised this on LinkedIn, I specifically tagged lots of men, hoping that they would be able to join us today. Yeah. So it'd be great to know, on the comments, if there are any guys that are on the call. But it actually, when I sent the invite out to my client list, I got quite a lot of response from people saying, I can't make it today, but can you make sure I can get a recording? That was really good engagement. So tell me, Joe, why do you think it's important for us to talk particularly about men?
I think for a number of reasons, but recent data has shown that 1 in 8 men have a common mental illness. That's quite a high number. And that's from 2020, November 2020 as well. So that's it's like last year, and those common mental illnesses are things like depression, anxiety, panic disorders, and in some cases, obsessive compulsive disorder.
Right, okay.
So like anything that gets reported, there will be other people out there that are experiencing perhaps a common mental health problem, but haven't been to receive any treatment or any help regarding that. This is just what's being reported, to a GP, to a psychiatrist, or in that kind of data collection.
But what would be the difference? Because if we were doing this just for women, what's the difference between doing this for women and doing this for men? So if we particularly talk about men, so what things do you see that are different there?
So in my experience of men that aren't in a environment where they've been to perhaps speak to somebody, it's because they don't.
Right.
They make a decision that perhaps they don't need to speak to anybody. There's a different level of awareness, I think, with some men, where research has shown that when males don't acknowledge that they have an emotional or mental problem happening, actually, it really impacts on their level of awareness. So then what happens is they tend to turn to things like drugs and alcohol as coping mechanisms.
Right. But more than women?
More than women, yeah, more than women, or other addictions. As women, I think women, we talk a lot. Kind of traditionally, women have spoken to each other about problems, about their experiences. I think that they feel it's easier to reach out for help than what a man does. There's those traditional roles that really impact and a man's expectation in society, whether we have that as females or whether men have it on themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So just you're absolutely right. It's the expectation, and maybe what you were brought up with. Just want to share. So, as an example, we've got people asking here. So people are saying good morning. So hi, Julia. Lovely to see you. Nice little photo there of you, glass of wine. And then Angel, says, can I get a recording? Absolutely, Angel. So this actually stays up on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook after this call. So you can simply give them the link. So whatever link you followed to get here today, you're able to just share that with your friends and colleagues, and they can absolutely come on to the call. So Gary, I know Gary. Hi Gary, how you going? Gary and I mutually support each other. Gary's worked with me. He's excellent. If you need some help in negotiation, I would definitely recommend Gary is the guy to help you with that. And Kieran, and he's dialing in from Manchester. Lovely to hear from you, Kieran.
Manchester. I'm in Manchester, Kieran. Welcome.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm assuming this is Lee and his Ace, and I'm watching this from work. I've recently applied to be a mental health first aider at work, so this is really relevant to you to find out. And it's all very well me and Joe talking about men and men's health. So we do really want some input from the people on the call, and I can see there's some comments. But I'm going to let Joe carry on and carry on with what she was saying about the expectations, maybe the history. We talked before the call, didn't we, about cultures? So just aligning it more. Keep going, Joe. What else are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm actually just wanting to pick up Aaron's comment there. I know Aaron, and we've had quite a lot of conversations on the phone around mental health and the work that he does as well. So thanks for joining us, Aaron. I really appreciate what you've put and shared in the chat there. It's really important. Thank you. I guess in terms of, from the experience that I've had talking to men more recently, there's a big, and I noticed somebody put it in the chat, and I can't remember who it was, Alison, where they said there's an expectation of this terrible phrase where men are expected to man up. Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Yeah. And actually, I don't know what that means, and I don't know what that must feel like for a man to be told that. But I think it's very detrimental for anyone, whether it comes from a man to a man or from a woman to a man, to actually say that to somebody, because actually, that's really not speaking to that individual personally, is it? I think it's very general. I think it's something that's about being tough. You can't cry, you can't show your emotion. And what we really want to encourage men to do is understand that, they have emotions. Yeah. They can talk. They can access the right help. And what's really interesting, and I've picked this up through my podcast, Let Men Talk. I'd like to give that a little plug today.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Where I've spoken to some amazing men on that podcast who've openly shared, the challenges that they faced as men, growing up from boys to man, and where that's come from. And a lot of what they share is around what they've seen their fathers do, or their role models do, or their male role models do. So there's a lot of learnt behavior as well.
Yeah.
Has people that have had mental illness within the family, and then they've gone on to develop a mental illness themselves as well.
Yeah, but without a doubt. I mean, here's some facts. Perhaps you wanted to talk through some of these facts, didn't you, Joe? Yeah.
So this was from Mind, and I think the study was called "Get It Off Your Chest" or something like that, which, you know, which is what we hear people say all the time, just get it off your chest. And it's particularly masculine kind of things to say to someone, or just get it off your chest. So this was started in 2019, but then it's been repeated. So 37% say social media has a negative impact on how they feel. So I'd be really interested in hearing from men that are listening to this, if there is this comparing and contrasting on social media around what other men look like, particularly because, you know, men do have eating disorders, men do have body dysmorphia. We can't ignore that, you know,
Yeah.
that actually, you know, is something that a lot of men do experience. I mean, when I go onto social media, all I see is kind of buff looking men and buff looking women. And I think that has a massive impact on someone's self-esteem and confidence, actually, which are two different things. And the number of men who have suicidal thoughts and feeling low or worried has doubled to 10% since 2009 to 2019. And we know,
if you think in our youth, so I might say I'm 52. So if a guy wanted to, well, or a girl, but if they could look at Hollywood stars, or we could look at we could go and pick Vogue, or we could pick up magazines. I mean, when I was in my 20s and 30s, there was only one real man's magazine, as an example. So how men looked and how men presented themselves wasn't as much as an important thing in everyday life. Whereas now, on our phones all day, every day, people are comparing themselves. So this data, we are aware this was 2019. But and obviously, and things have rolled on horrendously in the last 2 years in terms of mental health. But, you know, it's just there all the time, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, it's not that long ago, Alison, where I was talking to some people in the workplace, you know, which is the other part of my job, where they had experienced 2 men that had ended their life by suicide. You know, and that has a massive impact on an organization.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very, very real. And they had no idea that there was anything major, you know, concerns around these people, because they were working from home. You know, they'd had limited contact, so it was during the pandemic.
Wow.
You know, so it's been an incredibly stressful time. So I think if, you know, raising that awareness today is going to be so important for everyone, whether you're a woman listening and you've got a man in your life that, you know, struggles talking and doesn't reach out, but actually might need help, or if you're a man listening and you know that some of this relates to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just out of interest, is there any studies that you've seen about any particular occupations that suffer more with mental health?
Chief execs, dentists, doctors, high profile. And then obviously you've got those jobs that have got a risk attached to them as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got your highway maintenance men.
Are they more likely to take their own life, do you think? More likely to have mental health issues?
More likely to have mental health issues because it's actually quite a stressful job, but they've got access. The accessibility to a means is available.
Oh, okay.
You know, and also it's the same with railway workers.
Right.
You know, so I've been doing some work with Network Rail, and that's something that's come up quite a lot. You know, that the pressure of the job, but also the risk of the job as well. So where there's a risk, there is, but, you know, I mean, you only have to look at the health service, Alison. You know, there's a lot of people that have experienced burnout within the health service. You know, there's a lot of trauma because of what people witness as well. So all of those things, you know, do impact someone's mental health, which we all have, but actually can, you know, lead to a mental ill health if it's not caught at the right time, or if it's not treated in the right way.
Yeah. So let's talk through Kieran's comment here, Jo. So he says, I can very much relate to the social media stats. I try to avoid the temptation of constantly scrolling, exposing myself to images about more successful, healthier, or more muscular men. I feel like it has a more subconscious impact on me. And I know I need to stop that and retain my brain and not compare and put unnecessary pressure on myself. What do you say to that, Jo?
Yeah, I think Kieran, thanks for sharing that. I think it's very, very common. And I think the thing that you've done is that you're kind of acknowledging it, that it does have an impact on you, as some people won't do that. So I think that's a big start for you, by acknowledging that actually when you scroll through social media, perhaps you see somebody who's, you know, in a different place to you, perhaps doing something that you might want to do, or looking at them physically and they've just got a different physique. No, just try and really separate that that's not your life, that's theirs. But actually, the question that I always ask around social media, is that their life? You know, no one puts their worst life on social media. You know, I think it's really important to just take a step back from that and, you know, ground yourself using a grounding technique, and know that that may not even be where they're at. That's just for show. That could be reflecting something very different.
Yeah. So we've got Alan we've got Wendy Saville and Alan. Alan is a colleague of mine. And
Alan, yeah.
Well, he's an absolutely exemplary mental health trainer, and they have got their own personal experience of losing someone through suicide. They've also set up a charity. So Alan and Wendy, please feel free to put in the comments below your charity, because we've mentioned some charities, and I know I've donated to their charity because they're trying to help people. And it's Alan and Wendy, I don't think it's just men you help. I'm sure it's women too. But it'd be interesting to know if your experience is more with men than with women. I mean, what we want to do is we want to try and get people to seek the help that they need. You know,
absolutely.
You know, but everybody tries to get it in different ways, don't they? You know, we sort of thought that we put some graphical representations. I mean, it's very easy to say that somebody who looks like this is suffering in a bow tie. Maybe, I don't know, that the bow tie brings a little bit of light to it, but what we were trying to say is that, you know, mental ill health can affect any man, can't it, Jo?
Absolutely. You know, mental ill health and illness, it doesn't discriminate. Julia's point there, Alison's really interesting, because the construction industry as well. Where there's a lot of men, where actually a lot of men also sometimes work in isolation, so they don't always work with other men either. They don't always work in a team. They don't always work with other people. So therefore, there's a lot of, you know, retrospect, I guess, and a lot of time on their own, and a lot of thinking on someone's hands, really, when they work in isolation and not necessarily in a team. And I think for managers that are listening to this, perhaps it's about how do you keep an eye on those people that work solo, that work in isolation. You know, that's just a question to put out there for people to think about. You know, if they do have people in organizations that tend to work on their own for a majority of the day, or perhaps work during the night as well. I think that's another time when people will have more time to think, and perhaps thoughts are more kind of fluid, really, at night time, particularly.
I think you're probably, if you were a night worker, you would also probably think, I mean, I don't know, it's like well, nobody else is around, everybody else is sleeping. Of course, not everybody else is sleeping, but that's the perception, is it? I am on my own, I am isolated. So Wendy says, thanks, they founded www.ianschain.co.uk for men and women alike. So talk us through these stats on here, Jo.
Okay, can I just say that Alan was also a guest on my podcast, and it's a very good listen. It's a really good listen. He's one of my top downloads as well on my podcast, where he really talks openly about his own journey, and that with his son as well. So it's a really, really good listen. So thank you for that, Alan.
What we can do, Jo, what we'll do is we'll put a comment. If you can send me the link of that podcast, and then we'll put that on each of these live streams, on all three. Just send us the link and we'll put it in as a comment, so that people can go back and listen to that.
Much appreciate that. You know, the more it gets out there, the more people are going to hopefully access help and know that they're not alone on this journey. So the number of men who are worried about their appearance has risen from 18% in 2009 to 23%, you know, in 2019. And I do think that that's definitely related to the impact of social media and what Kieran was talking about, just looking at that comparison. I think fashion has changed for men. You know, I think beauty, I don't know whether it's called beauty in the male world, actually. I'm not quite sure. Any men out there know what the
I know. But Terry, you know all that because I'm married to somebody who's really just okay. He does his beard, and he's not really into, you know, men's. Oh God, it has
men's grooming.
Grooming.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. But what is really interesting, you know, years ago, Alison, the barbershop, was the place for men to talk about what was going on in life.
Yeah,
you know, it's vanity. Yes, Kieran, vanity.
Vanity. I think you know, there's male products now, loads of male products. It's very much okay to be gay, or you know, or transgender, and the world is a different place, and people want to make themselves look different, and you know, and make the best of themselves, and that's great if that's making you feel better. Plastic surgery, you know, the whole thing. You know, it's a different world, and I guess we need these comments from so Sean has just put a comment which I'll share with everyone at the moment. But we need to know what you guys are thinking more than what we're sharing. So 3/4 of the deaths registered as suicide in England and Wales are among men. I don't know whether everybody knows that. Because I don't know whether men are more determined or men, you know. So Joe, tell me what your thoughts are on why it would be more men that execute suicide.
Well, I guess the age group that's reported in from a statistical point of view is between 40 and 49. So I think in, you know, that age bracket of men is what would be perhaps termed as a midlife.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a bit like what Kieran was saying, you know, doing that comparing. Am I where I think I should be at this time in my life? Perhaps I've experienced a divorce in life by this time. Perhaps I've experienced many losses by that point in life, you know, and perhaps have not always managed to have good coping mechanisms as they've kind of, you know, grown up, depending on what their experience has been, you know, kind of growing up from their family. You know, they may have been involved in the criminal justice system. They may have been an inpatient in a mental health hospital for a period of time as well. But I think so I think that age group 40 to 49, where there is still a lot of research going on around the why that age group. But often for me, from what I experience of talking with men, listening to what they say, often it's a loss, beginning to be a loss of identity. Right.
Well, I suppose from what I have seen in our local area, so I live in Surrey. There's lots of money around here, lots of private roads, a great expectation for everyone's children to go to private schools, have cars, have 2 holidays, skiing holidays, second homes, all that sort of pressure. And I think from what I've seen is that there's people who are trying to keep up with that. So there's here's me just speaking from the outside. I would see the younger people are looking at Instagram and saying, I've got to look like this person and behave in that way. And I think at 45 and so, or 50, which is the age group I'm a bit more familiar with, it would be, have I achieved? Have I done what I want? You're saying about losing identity, but also like, I'm just not as good as the next guy. Or, you know, loads of them are in financial services. So you talked about construction. So it's white collar pressure asset managers who have got these big deals and big portfolios and things like that, and pressure of everybody's investments, you know, and they sadly take their own life. You know, in the city of London, there's a place called Coq d'Argent, which is a beautiful wine bar and restaurant, and sadly lots of them took that right at Bank Station, you know, right in the heart of the city. So it's so desperately sad. I mean, so if we can't give everybody all the answers, and people have to help themselves, don't they? So it would be great to see on the chat. So thanks so very much for everybody chatting on your various different platforms. What ideas have you got that help you with your mental health? So moving into more positive thoughts of, we accept that there are people with suicidal, we've got some with suicidal thoughts and, you know, very, very mentally unwell people. We've got some charities that we can point you towards. But if you had to put, we've got our 10 steps in here, but it'd be lovely to hear what people on the chat have got to say. What steps do they take? Yeah, so let's see. So yeah, Bailey says reality shows like Love Island don't help.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I totally agree with that, Bailey. They don't help men, or they don't help women, and they don't help that particular young age group, which we were having another conversation, weren't we, just before we started, Alison, around, you know, if you are an organization and you are employing kind of younger people, which you will naturally, but, you know, now the younger people are coming more equipped with what they need for their mental health and well-being.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you have to respond to that.
Yeah.
You know, in a healthy, helpful way that helps them feel valued in the workplace, because that's why they will stay with you. And that's when they will become your great employee, when you demonstrate that you have got their back around their mental health and well-being, and you also speak their language, because they will come to you with those difficult questions. And that's something else that we can also help you with, isn't it, Alison?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Liam says, you know, society's definitely got a predefined structure of that, of what success is, as it were. So tell me, guys, what do you think? It'd be great to have in the comments. What do you think if we had to have top 10 tips for good mental health for men, particularly for men, because obviously we've done lots of work on the general stuff. But you know, so if we've got Jackson here who says, I have these troubles, you know, so what do you do? So some comments from the group would be great. Let's see what Navi has to say. It's bad because some traditional views of being brought up teaches us to kind of suppress these feelings and thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. So this would be one example of a thing that you can do. So Jo, what sort of tips have you got? I'm going to share the slide in just a sec, but what sort of things, particularly to men, would you like to share?
I think one of the important things, and, you know, research has kind of highlighted this, that men do talk. And in my experience of the podcast, men do talk. But I think the key is finding the person that you feel you can open up to and you can trust. So it's almost like your X-rated version of events, that you can actually share everything with that person, and there is no judgment. I think that's really, really important. But also, men will access treatment if they believe it's going to be helpful for them. It's accessible. And I think that's a lot about services, which I guess, you know, charities like Ian's Chain and some of the other charities that we've mentioned on, you know, that we're going to be talking about towards the end, you know, they are specifically for men as well. You know, because I know I've spoken to men before where they've gone, all right, I've made a decision, I'm going to go and get some counselling. They've gone to the counselling room, and on the table in the counselling room, in the waiting room, is a whole heap of women's magazines.
All right, yeah.
Okay, so that's not helpful, you know, and I think that environment that people want to be in, it needs to be conducive for that individual to feel comfortable. And actually, you know, I've come here, I feel this is a good place for me to be. It's a good starting point for me to be. Yeah.
So Nabi says, best tip I could give, which helped me, is simply talking about it is, you know, is a great step with close friends and families, not letting everything out all at once, but a bit it certainly helped me. Yeah, I mean, you don't all need to be as extrovert as me and Jo are and going on we're doing a live stream.
We're not really.
Aaron. In a world that's pre-planned, defined, it's like men have to gain and maintain a lifestyle, and anything else class as failure. I think that can be definitely true. But what we're wanting is some tips. So let's have a look. I think this is overlooked, but a good night's sleep. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Good night.
Yeah, I think sleep can absolutely be at the nub of it. So Emily says, I can give a tip as a woman. I remember that if even if you may, or friends and relatives don't show signs of ill health, how they appear externally isn't always how they feel inside. Yeah, so just reach out. Absolutely.
I think that's really lovely, Emily, actually, because there's such an emphasis on the person who's struggling to reach out, when actually that's the last thing they want to do. So I think a tip for us looking after our friends and our family is, let's reach in and let's check in with people on a regular basis. If your noisy friends have gone a bit quiet, you know, check in. You know, if me and Alison go really quiet, check in with us, because you know, we're not quiet people. But I think the behaviour, the behaviour that you know around your friends and family, when you start to see those changes, then they're changes for a reason.
Yeah. So these are 10 steps that we thought about. So it's some of the stuff that you've talked about, but anyway, Jo, you go through them.
Okay. So we know that talking about feelings isn't always an easy thing to do, but we know that it's a helpful thing to do. Or you can even perhaps write your feelings down if you struggle to talk. Keeping active. Now, for men, going to the gym and kind of doing physical exercise is going to really help you with your mental health and well-being. Eating well. Our diet is really, really important. It has a massive impact on, our gut, but also how we think and how we feel as well. Drink sensibly, and by that I'm talking about alcohol intake there, because we know that heavy alcohol consumption, leads to, not only can lead to physical health problems, but can also lead to a deterioration in the way we think about things, our perception on other people and ourselves, and we can create dependency quite quickly as well. Keeping in touch, like we just mentioned earlier on, if you are someone that is able to reach out for help, then great. But also if you aren't, have someone around you that just checks in with you. Take a break and sleep when you need it. I know that's not always possible when you're working. However, if you have a mental illness or struggling with your mental health, perhaps that's something that you can talk about with your employer, and see if you can just take a break where you get away from your desk, or you're able to go outside, or you're able to do something that helps you stay engaged in work. Do something you're good at. When I do something that I'm good at, it feels good.
Yeah.
And it lifts your confidence. And it's like, you know what? I'm great at that one thing, whatever it is. Even if it's one thing, it doesn't matter. But finding something that you're good at and something that you enjoy. Accepting who you are. I know that can be a challenge, but actually there is only one of you. You are the most unique person in the world. There is only one of you. And beginning to accept who you are and what your experiences are going to really help you not have that judgment and not speak to yourself in such a harsh way, because sometimes we do speak to ourselves so negatively, when we wouldn't speak to other people like that. Caring for others can really help you boost your self-esteem and your confidence as well, and seeking medical help when you're ready. And that medical help doesn't necessarily have to be a GP, but perhaps looking at what forms of therapies or help might be available and suitable for you, because it's not one size fits all. Counselling might work for me, it might not work for Alison. What's the one? Emotional freedom technique might work for Alison, it might not work for me. There is so much out there, but if I can just ask you to do one thing if you are seeking help, please make sure it's through a professional.
So what sort of risks? What do you mean by that, Jo?
I think there's such a lot around mental ill health at the moment, and not everybody's got the right experience or the right, even qualification actually. Because I think if I was going to get psychotherapy or counselling, I'd be looking through the British Association of Counsellors or British Association of Psychotherapists, and working my way through them until I found a fit.
Right. So let's just to be clear, because we tell them to talk to sick people. So just understand that if you're going to talk to your friends, that they're not professionals. So that's what you're saying, isn't it? So
your friends aren't professional, and will give you. They might even say to you, they might not be very empathetic. They might say, "Oh, come on, pull yourself together. It's okay. Get over it." Now that we know that friends do that and they're doing it with their best intention, but perhaps they might not be the right person for you to speak to if you're wanting something more than that.
Yeah.
You know, and there are so many men's, I want to say men's clubs, but there's men's in sheds. There's, you know, there's lots of different. There was one, somebody contacted me the other day, and it was take your dog for a walk and talk with your dog, which I thought was brilliant. You know, there are so many things now that are available in lots of different areas, you know, that it's making it more accessible. Yeah. And men seek support the same way they shop. So in my experience of male shopping is that you find one top and you'll buy it in every colour. Women don't do that. Women don't do that. But actually, it's to keep it really simple and streamlined. And actually, what you want to be able to do is go to that one place and get everything there rather than to have to shop around. Females, we tend to shop around a little bit more. But, you know, it's so important to have the right person for you, because actually taking that step is a major part of your recovery, and it's really, really important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we put this little video up because we just think it's nice. It's not necessarily a counselling situation because they generally sit in different ways. But this is about, you know, having a chat, not necessarily over a pint, you know, taking some time to talk with a colleague or, you know, with a friend and understanding. Or we thought this might be the lady you might phone up at Bupa if you've got some sort of employee assistance program. This lady might be on the other end of the phone and be able to direct you in a different way if you're struggling. There might be people on phone lines. I don't think this is Alan Saville, by the way, or Wendy Saville on the end of the phone. Do you, Joe?
No, not at all. Not at all. I just want to pick up on Wendy's point there, Alison. You know, I think talking to family and friends can actually help massively and shouldn't be discouraged. Absolutely. I wasn't wanting to discourage it in any way. I think it's just about, for some people, friends and family are always the most helpful.
No, I think, I think you've got to choose
wisely.
You've just got to be aware of, you know, where you go and how you get it.
Yeah.
So these are some of the, I'm just going to share some of the actual ideas that we had on just some. I mean, there are loads of different charities out there. And the one at the bottom left is Mind. Samaritans is a big one. Joe, tell us about Campaign and Hub.
Yeah, so Campaign Against Living Miserably is for men, and they have a wide variety of talking services, listening services that you can access, but it's all about not living a miserable life if you feel that that's what you're doing. And the Hub of Hope, I really like this because actually you can be anywhere in the country and put your postcode of where you are into the Hub of Hope, and it will tell you what services are available. And, you know, so that's making it really accessible. So you're not just relying on something in your area if you've gone on holiday and you feel actually you need to speak to somebody. And obviously the Samaritans are a listening service with no judgment. They will never tell you not to do something or to do something, but they will listen and help you, you know, ultimately talk about what you're experiencing.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks so much. I mean, we've got some brilliant comments. Thanks so much, everybody.
So engaging, everyone.
Yeah, really engaged. So, you know, we've got something here from Alan. Totally agree. You need to connect and trust the person to talk to. And for men who want to listen and to be ready for the reply. Yeah, so it's no good saying, oh, you're suicidal, and someone says yes and you don't know how to react.
Yeah.
When that person's in crisis, they need to feel listened to. So, you know, and Alan's recommended some training. Alan, maybe if you could comment and put it on there, the actual link of the business the training you'll talk about. And I noticed that there was another comment from somebody who said that they've been sent this link via their occupational health team.
Wow.
So that's great. So we're really pleased that the word is getting out there. So Julie says tip would be to start talking and stop worrying. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. And then we got Angel said, look in the mirror and tell yourself something you appreciate about yourself every morning. Start the day.
Yeah.
having a safe place, says Sean, where you know you can get if you feel worried and low.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's probably one of the most important things, knowing that that person that you're going to speak to, you trust them, you feel safe with them, there's no judgment, you know, you can feel that actually whatever you say isn't going to, you know, they're not going to leave you, they're going to stay there with you, and they're going to support you through that challenge.
Yeah. Julie says, you reach a higher level of relief and freedom when you stop worrying about what other people think of you. Absolutely. But that's really, really easy to say. And so I think, you know, we have to work hard. This is a much easier thing, I think. So Liam says, make your bed every morning, then already you've achieved your first task of the day. And if you have a bad day, at least you come home to a well-made bed.
Brilliant.
That's great. Emily says, talk to yourself as if you were the friend. And yeah, Wendy says, I think talking to family and friends can actually help massively, and it should not be discouraged.
Yeah.
Now you can tell us about this one, Joe. What does Aaron say?
Men's brains are like boxes. We only take the lid off one box at a time and can only process and talk about what's in that box. So for me, I find it easier talking to men sometimes about certain things. Absolutely. And I think, you know, and this went through my mind this morning, actually, thinking, you know, me and Alison are two women talking about men and mental health. However, you know, some men do find it easier talking with another male, which is why I think there is a lot of help out there for men with men, but also some men find it easier talking to a female as well. Now, I'm not sure why that is, because I've spoken to lots of men in my years, whether they've been in hospital, out of hospital, whether they've been on my podcast. And I think often it's about actually how helpful is that person to you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you feel when you're in that person's presence? Company, you know, and I think that's something to bear in mind when you're looking for help as well.
Yeah. Oh, this has been fantastic, Joe, and I hope we've helped one person today just to talk about and share and give one little bit of advice. We've got a nice little thank you from Daniel Santos. He often comes on our events. So I want to just sort of wind up and say, if anyone's got any further comments, particular questions for Joe, she's available to help one-to-one or through one-to-many in organisations. We're always looking for new topics to do on I think it's our 9th live stream. So we're talking about anything in the HR, learning and mental health space. We want to help organisations. I'm getting quite used to doing the lives, you know, still getting good. At 10:58, I wasn't enjoying life as much as I am now. I'm always all right once the live stream has started, but it is a bit of a moment, isn't it, Joe?
Always. We always have a little bit of a moment, myself and Alison. Alan's put his information in there as well, Alison, which is...
Yes.
Where is it? Yeah, there it goes.
So Alan says, yeah, you can contact him directly about assist training. I've used it to save 78 people. Well, that's actually absolutely unbelievable, Alan. And I'm privileged to know you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Aaron says, thanks, ladies. Great talk and very helpful. Thanks to everyone who commented. Yeah, thanks, because the comments actually make such a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Kieran says, unfortunately, I had to go. Thank you, Alison and Joe, for everyone else's thoughts and advice. Let's all be kinder to each other and ourselves. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, well, we're going to leave it at that, because we've obviously blew right over our half an hour. I hope our comments have helped everyone. So just want to say thanks again. Thanks so much, Joe. It's been really fun.
Pleasure.
Any other ideas or topics particular to HR, learning and mental health, please let us know. And if you'd like to be on one of our podcasts or events, let us know. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, People Vision. Okay, Liam says thank you. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.